ladies and gentlemen, one more time, welcome to Kai Kai. And I see a lot of familiar faces around here. I know you're going to enjoy your evening tonight. We have our famous executive chef, Tim Lipman from Coolinary Cafe. We've been working together for many, many years, and it's always a pleasure when he comes here. We're all smiling, and we're like little kids, all nervous. The boss is in town, that sort of thing. So go ahead, Mr. Tim, and tell you got the platform.
Thank you so much. Welcome, everybody. We're going to have a lot of fun tonight. Thank you, everyone, for coming. Really, really cool experience for me. I hope it's going to be fun for you, too. I see a lot of familiar faces out there. Thank you, everyone, for all the support over all the years. We just had our 9-year anniversary. For some of y'all that didn't quite know that, been working with Diane since day one. So really, really excited about all the cool things to come and excited about being here tonight. So we're going to run down through a couple of things. We're going to go over some dishes. We also brought Becca with us. So those of you who do eat at the restaurant quite a bit, you know our amazing dessert program. That's all by her. I don't mess with desserts. So you're actually going to get a couple people doing demos tonight. So Becca's going to do the demo on the dessert. Yeah. So yeah, we're going to run down through a few things, and while I go through it, I'm also going to give you a little bit of pointers on some different things that you can do with some of these different dishes and how you can use different vegetables and different meats. This is really what I created tonight, is something that you can hopefully create on a whim, and that's the idea. So when you're buying local produce and you're working with amazing people like Diane, the reality is you're not always going to see something that you may not know what it is. Sometimes it may not exactly be in your recipe, but everything that we're doing here today, you'll be able to use for multiple different things, and you'll be able to use a lot of different other ingredients that you can do the very same application with and make something equally as delicious. So next time you're at the green market and you run across Diane and you want to make a carrot soup and you realize she doesn't have carrots, but maybe she has her Seminole pumpkins or maybe calabaza, you can do all of that. You can do this exact same dish with those vegetables. So that's what's really going to be cool about today and really, really special about what Diane does as well. So first things first, we're going to start with our soup. This entire soup consists of stuff that you get from Diane. Carrots, her beautiful, beautiful carrots. You can use any of them, right? So these carrots really do taste quite different. They're beautiful in the fact that none of them look the same. For this particular application, I wouldn't use the purples, but you can use them for really anything else you want. Slice them up, salads, roast them. Those are all fantastic. The tops also make a really great pesto. You can use them in stocks, chicken stock, anything like that. Just wash them really good, and they work really, really great for all those applications as well. And then her peppers. These little sweet peppers are so fantastic. The first time I saw them, I was like, wow, those are banana peppers. Like, they're going to be really spicy. And then I cut into them and realized they have the most amazing, vegetal, sweet, kind of pepper flavor to them, but they're really, really intense and really, really fantastic. So we're going to use these as well. Let me just get my burner going real quick. It's already a little bit hot. So simple pot, a little bit of olive oil inside. We're going to take these. And these peppers have very little seeds in them. That's something that's really cool about them. You see, you can just slice right down through these guys. Look at how far down I got before I get any seeds. Don't worry about them. Those seeds are fine. They're not going to hurt you. Slice right in. And this is the beauty of making soups, right? You're going to clean out your refrigerator. You're going to go to the green market. You're going to pick up whatever it is they happen to have at that time. And then you're just going to throw everything right in. This is carrots, obviously, Diane. It's a basic mirepoix. So celery, onion, carrots, all of those are going to go right in as well. Then we're going to take some of these. And we're just going to chop them just like this, skin and all. They're so clean. They're washed so well. They don't have a lot of extra skin on them. It's not going to hurt you. It's just adding extra flavor. You're going to cut all of that. Now your carrots in a soup like this, if you want it to be predominant, you're going to have to add some of those a little bit heavier on the orange colored carrots and the yellow colored carrots. But if you're doing like butternut squash or, like I said, the calabaza or the Seminole pumpkins, it's all going to be right about the same. You're going to pick that up. We're just going to toss those for now. Now with this, you're just going to saute up your veg for, anywhere between 10 to 15 minutes this can go. You don't really do it on high. Do it on more of like a medium to medium high temperature. You want to get a little bit of color, you can. I wouldn't go too far because it's going to make more of a brown soup. We don't want a brown soup. We want bright, vibrant, right? Pick up on those carrots. So while the vegetables are cooking, and this is a process I use to just deepen the flavor of the soup in itself. You'll see this in a lot of Cajun cooking, a lot of Latin cooking. They toast the spices right into whatever it is you're cooking. Some of your more traditional French style cooking, you're going to toast a lot of spices ahead of time. We're going right in. So this is garlic, granulated onion, a little bit of white pepper, some salt. You're going to stir that around. And what you'll start to see, and you'll start to smell the fragrancy of all of the spices starting to come together. And you can see we've already started to get, can you all see that? It's already a beautiful fond on the bottom of the pan there. And we want some of that. Definitely want a little bit of that. Now again, this is something, guys, whatever you have in the fridge. It can be anything. You can do this with zucchini. You go to Publix or Trader Joe's or Whole Foods or whatever it is that you're going, or the green market, obviously. Whatever they have on sale, buy it. And that's what you can make your soup with. Okay? So you're just going to stir this up for a little bit longer, and then you're going to go right in with chicken stock. I know it's kind of funny to say chicken stock and vegetable soup. If you want to do a vegetable stock, you can. But the umami flavor that you're going to get out of the chicken stock is really, really where it's at. Don't use like a beef or anything like that. That's too heavy. Stick with chicken or vegetable. You can honestly, you could do a little bit of water if you liked, but really the chicken stock is what's going to give you your best quality product. You're going to bring this up. You're going to cook it until all of your vegetables are tender and you've reduced that liquid by just a little bit. You don't want a real soupy because you're going to blend this when you're done. But just kind of let it go for about 20-30 minutes. Check your vegetables, check your seasoning, add some pepper if you like, add some salt if you like, and just watch it. Just don't boil too much of that liquid out. And then once you're done with that, this is what you're going to have. You see that? Okay. So soup's been cooking 45 minutes or so, 30, 45 minutes. Your carrots are nice and tender. You see, I can just take them and smush them with my hands. Now, I know that there's some non-dairy applications out there. We can skip this part entirely, or an almond milk, something like that would be really, really fantastic. But I like to add a little bit of cream, just a little bit of cream at the very end, and it just adds a really beautiful velvetyness to the end. Right on kind of that like mid palate, super smooth. Hand blender, any of you guys have one of these at home? My favorite tool. I use it for absolutely everything. Absolutely everything. You can make all your dressings with this, make your soups with this, make a protein shake with this, whatever you want. I use it for everything. So you have a nice chunky soup here. Get your hand blender, a little bit of cream, get it going. And you're literally just gonna add a little bit of cream right into it. And you can see it's not overly creamy. Now, if you don't have one of these and you have a blender, you can totally use that. Blender works really great. Just be careful because the heat will actually try to pop the lid off. So it'll build up pressure inside. So you see this got nice and thick on us. You can add a little bit of cream to make it a little bit lighter. You can add a little more chicken stock. Whatever you want to do, it's up to you. However thin, however thick you want it. And that's really it. Super simple soup. You can do potatoes, you can do butternut, you can do calabaza, you can do zucchini, beautiful yellow squash, crooked neck squash, and curry. A really, really popular soup. Can we see it? Yeah. And that's it. That's literally all you got to do for the soup. It's fantastic. So we have the soup done. And now we're going to make a little garnish. This one's going to be with yogurt. So yogurt is super versatile. We love it. We use a lot of it at the restaurant. It's got beautiful tang to it. Again, helps round out the palate, adds a good fatness to it. So this is whole milk yogurt. I really suggest using whole milk yogurt. You can go like a low fat or something like that, just nothing flavored. Nothing vanilla, nothing like that. If you can't use dairy, you can use an alternative, but just don't get anything flavored. And with this yogurt, it's a cumin yogurt. We just take a little bit of cumin powder, a little fresh lemon, and some beautiful local honey. Nice, right? I can smell the orange blossom coming off of this through my mask. It's so beautiful. And you're just going to mix this together. This little sauce right here, I absolutely love it for all sorts of like Indian food applications. I mentioned like the yellow squash and curry soup. This is really great with that. This can go on chicken, a tandoori chicken. It's obviously great in soup. You could turn it into a dressing if you like, but I like it on hot applications, keeping the yogurt nice and cool. It just adds such another level of freshness to the dish. And that's it. That's all in our soup. So again, whatever you have at the store, whatever you have at the green market, you can pick it up, apply this application. It's a basic mirepoix. Add heavy of the other vegetables, bring it up, nice puree. If you don't want to puree it, leave it chunky. There's no problem with that. You can add chicken into this. You can add whatever you like. And really, really simple, basic soup recipe. We call it a broccoli salad. It's really just some fresh vegetables mixed with some roasted broccoli. It's the Happy Rich that Diane grows here on the farm. It's a really, really beautiful vegetable. It's got a faint little spice to it almost, and then it also has a beautiful sweetness. I absolutely love this broccoli. Anytime she has it, we always have it on. So first thing we're going to do, though, this course is a broccoli salad. It is pan-seared. It's served warm, but then we serve it with a yogurt, and we serve it with pickled raisins. Now, we pickle everything at Coolinary. A lot of you who have been, majority of our dishes will have some sort of pickled item on it. And that is a level of balance there. So we're adding some acidity to the dish. And when you think about a golden raisin, it's already super sweet too. So now we're adding sweet to the dish. Anything you're cooking at any time, you want to try to balance it. You cook with wine sometimes, you cook with lemon sometimes, but you never want something to be overly sour, right? If you're making some of your more traditional dishes like a chicken piccata, you wouldn't just like dump a ton of lemon juice into this. So you always want to be able to find that balance. And on this particular dish that doesn't get like a sauce per se, we like to add layers of flavor into it. And pickled raisins is something that I really, really love. Now, again, you can do this with raisins. You can do it with onions, like a nice sweet, like a Vidalia or a really sweet yellow onion. But you can also do different fruits. So again, you're around the green market you go, and it's mango season in Florida, right? You don't always get to pick mangoes when they're ripe. For those of you who don't have mango trees, most of the time the squirrels get to the mangoes before you get to the mangoes. And squirrels like to get into your mangoes, take one little tiny bite out of the mango, and if they don't like it, they drop it on the ground. So a lot of times the mangoes get picked a little bit early. Pickled mangoes are absolutely fantastic. Peel them, slice them, shave them nice and thin, pop them into a little acidulated liquid like this that, again, has some balance to it. It's got a little bit of sugar, it's got a little bit of vinegar, it's got a little bit of salt, starting to hit all of those angles there. We got black pepper in it, so you got a little bit of heat on the back side. You can add chili flake if you like, chop a jalapeno, throw it in there. But there is a billion things that you could pickle, and we probably pickled about 500 million at Coolinary. Pretty close to it. So this is a very simple pickle recipe, and I'm going to start with this because if you were doing this at home, you would want to get your pickles going probably earlier in the morning to give them a little bit more time. But you could do them a la minute, like what we say here. And so with that, we're just going to make them and kind of set them off to the side, okay? So this is a mixture of vinegar and water, just white distilled vinegar, and then we use a little bit of apple cider vinegar too. So apple cider vinegar is a little bit on the sweeter side, not such a strong pungent. Black pepper, salt, sugar, mustard seed, a little brown sugar as well. And then you're just going to bring that up. Now, if you need a little bit more water, just add some water to it. But this isn't going to make a lot. So what you're going to do is you're just going to bring this up to a quick boil. Now, once it gets to a boil, you're done. You've dissolved all of your solids that are going to dissolve. You don't really need to go any further. You're going to end up cooking down your sugars a little bit more than what you would like to, and there's not really any purpose to it. Once your solids have dissolved, you're good to go. If you're doing like a traditional pickle at home, like a cucumber pickle, and you wanted to, say, jar it, you would have your sanitized jar, you'd have your cucumbers in the jar, and then you take your pickling liquid and you would actually pour that over top of your pickles and put your lid on. As that cools, it pasteurizes inside. It sucks the lid down in. You could put that in the cupboard in the pantry, and you could eat it in 3 years, and it'd be fantastic. So that's kind of what this process is here. Just the early stages. You can already see it's already almost done. Now, all we're going to do is just going to take another pot here. It's just what I happen to have. The raisins will go right in. I don't suggest this, but it's good. Everything's already dissolved. You're just going to take this, and we can see it's a nice boil. Just pour it right over top of the raisins. Now, what I really love about pickled raisins is the way they're already dried, right? So they're like these little cool, pruny little vegetables that are bursting with flavor. Well, then you're just rehydrating them with the pickle liquid. So they're going to plump up. And now, by rehydrating it, you're adding some of that acid into it, and then you're still keeping the sugars. So there are these cool little sweet and sour little flavor bombs that you can put on anything. You know, curry chicken, smoked chicken, fish, beautiful on a piece of fish, something spicy, really, really fantastic. So while those are sitting, we're going to make another yogurt sauce. I told you guys I love yogurt. This is me just trying to show you how versatile it can really, really be. Different application, completely different dish, other than vegetables. More whole fat yogurt. So with this one, we're going to do tahini. Everybody know what tahini is? Anybody not know what tahini is? So tahini is very simply ground sesame seed. It is what makes hummus fantastic. It's used very often in many, many different dishes in Middle Eastern cuisines. They also use it in some Latin cuisines, believe it or not. You can see it's just like a paste, right? They just take toasted sesame seeds and they just puree them down. And we're going to fold that right into the yogurt. We have a little bit of lemon. And more of our beautiful local honey. I love that stuff. Mix it in. And this is so good. I absolutely love tahini. Really, really tasty. It's going to taste just like sesame seeds. It's really fantastic. Again, it's going to add a nice balance to it. You've got some creaminess, right? So we got creaminess in the yogurt, right? We've got a little bit of nuttiness coming from the sesame seeds. We've got sweet and sour coming from the raisins. You can see how we're starting to build a dish here. It's very simple. Anytime you're cooking, you want to try to get all of these things in there. You know, they did an old study years ago at the University of Florida where they kind of broke down the concept of how people eat. And the human brain sees food and dining through the palate. That's how we accept food. And if you can hit every angle of the palate through your sweet and your salty and your spicy and your sour and all of those, your body feels satisfied. Your brain feels satisfied. So if you can start cooking like this, and where you're using all of these little techniques, they're not overly complicated, but you'll start to see that you're really, really satisfied with your food. I love food. I don't know about you guys, but this is what I do. I eat a lot. My wife's always like, "You're eating again?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'm eating again. It's what I do. I cook and I eat." So, stainless steel pan. Again, this can be a Teflon pan. This can be a cast iron pan. It really doesn't matter. The pan is only as good as the cook. There's a lot of people out there that spend a lot of money on pans. I've got a couple nice pans. I never use them. I use the ones that I buy from Walmart all the time. They're easy. I burn through them. They don't last very long, but they cook just as fine. So you're just going to get the pan hot. That's really all you're trying to do. And you're going to take this beautiful broccoli. Hear that sizzle? That's all we want. Broccoli's going in. Very simple. Press it down. We're going to season this with just a titch of salt and pepper. Now, you don't want to cook this long. Everybody remembers broccoli growing up, right? It was like this steamed, nasty, mushy, smelly, just god-awful stuff. We don't need to eat like that. It's just not necessary. I like it crunchy. Diane's growing all these beautiful vegetables out here. You don't want to cook them to death. You want to keep as many nutrients in them as possible. Keep the colors in it. You know, when we talk about dining with the palate, right? You look at food, and that's what makes you want it. But eat with color at the same time, right? And if you're eating with lots of different colors, you're going to have an opportunity. It makes it much easier to eat with all the different flavors as well. So we can see we're already starting to get beautiful color on that broccoli. Can we see that? That's all we want. We're going to let that go for like another minute. If you're not cooking on a high enough heat at the house, I know some people don't always like to cook really, really hot, right? Smell up the house. I get that. We just open up a window. But, you know, if that's not what you want to do, you can cook it a little bit lower. And if by chance it's not quite cooking fast enough for you, you can do this. Be really careful. You should always remove a pan from the fire anytime you're adding liquid to it. A little bit of liquid, a little bit of water, put a lid on it. And you can steam that up real quick. You see the color of that broccoli? Look at how bright green that is. Absolutely perfect. That's all you got to do. Leave it nice and crunchy, nice and sweet. You have good caramelization on that. It's really going to add a lot of great flavor to it. And then with our yogurt, with our pickled raisins, you're going to absolutely love it. All right. Do we have any questions real quick? No? Perfect. We're going to plate and you're going to get the dime.
Kitchen, turning up the heat for the feast. cooking in the kitchen, rocking on the phone at Kai's Music Garden.
So did we enjoy that? What do we think? Yeah? It's kind of cool when you start to play with all those different flavors and you start to actually think about the food and be like, wow, I can get that sweet, I can get that sour, I can get that salty. And then just the earthiness of the vegetables pairing with all of that, I love it. Did we like the tahini? Sir, first time? Yeah? Tahini yogurt is a turkey sausage. Now, a lot of people perceive a sausage as something that needs to be stuffed into a link. It needs to be twisted off, it needs to be smoked, it needs to be something like that. That is not true. Sausage is technically just a force meat. That's all it is. It's a ground meat with fat added into it. And it can really be anything you want. It can be turkey. It can be pork, which is the most common known. Chicken, beef, veal, lamb. Anybody out there that likes to hunt, venison, I mean, you can really do anything. Depending on the meat will depend on the fat ratio and what you want to add into it. What we're doing today for this application, it's a relatively lean meat, but you can add as much as you want. I wouldn't really go over like 30%. 30% is going to be a pretty fatty sausage, but definitely like 20%, 15 to 20%, something like that. Very similar to like a hamburger grind. And what's beautiful about the one that I'm doing today is, again, this goes back to kind of the first thing that I said was buy what's on sale. Okay? If you're not going to be grinding it yourself, which is actually relatively easy to do, you can do it with just a basic KitchenAid. They have beautiful attachments, all stainless steel. You can throw a chicken breast right through it. Buy what's on sale. So turkey was on sale, so I bought it for this application. But again, chicken, beef, pork, you're at the store, you're seeing what they got, what looks the best, what they're grinding that day. You see them loading up a case with pork and it says $4.99 a pound, pick it up, take it home. This also works really, really well for just something that you have in your freezer. You know, again, weeknight dinner, what are we going to do? We got to throw something together. It doesn't always have to be just like pan-seared chicken breast. So, which is great, right? I mean, we love that, but sometimes it just gets a little bit, you know, kind of boring. I mean, I know that over the year that we just had, I'm sure a lot of people here got to play with some different recipes, right? This is another one that you can kind of put into your repertoire and start to play with a little bit. So before we get into the sausage, we're going to talk about bulgur wheat. Bulgur wheat to me is really, really fantastic. Kind of similar to a couscous, a little bit nuttier in flavor, has a better bite to it. It is a wheat product, but it's more cracked, right? It's not like a ground flour or something like that. And super easy to cook, really, really inexpensive. So you can pick these up at most stores. You can also buy on Amazon or something like that if you like. But it's a really, really easy, quick recipe that you can make. You can store it. My wife loves to put it in her salads, kind of like you would a couscous. We'll make a big batch of it at the beginning of the week, put it in the refrigerator. She'll toss it in the salads and eat it. So I really, really love bulgur wheat. Now, before we make the bulgur wheat, we are going to season the sausage. You always want to let the sausage sit for at least like a few hours. Typically, that's best. That lets the salts dissolve. That lets all of the flavors get in. Without me getting into like specifics, you know, typically something like this, when you're going to make it, your salt's going to be about 1.5% and your dry spice is going to be about 3%. I don't think you guys really need to worry about all that. Season it, taste it, ball it up, put it in a little pan, and see how you like it. But rule of thumb, you know, broken down into grams, you're like 1.5 and then a 3%. You can go up to 1, go up to like 1.75 or 2, but you might start getting a little bit salty there. This is a very, very simple sausage. And again, this can be done for multiple different applications. It can be done for multiple different cuisines. Again, if you're doing an Asian cuisine, this particular one has ginger and coriander. This would work fantastic with that. If you want to go Latin, you can do some smoked paprika, a little chili powder, and some cumin. You can do Italian with toasted fennel seed, chili flake, oregano. So these are all things that most of you already have in your cabinets. Pull it out, throw it in, mix it up, cook it, and you got sausage. All right. So for what we're going to do here, we're just doing a little bit of ground ginger, some red chili flake, got a little bit of spice to it, ground coriander. Coriander seed is the seed of the cilantro plant. Really fantastic. In other parts of the world, they're actually going to call it coriander, not cilantro. In most parts of the world, they're going to call it coriander, not cilantro. We only do that here. And then some salt and pepper. Now you can see there's a good amount of spice there, right? Can we see that? Yeah. It's just like making a meatball. Don't really overcomplicate it. Don't think too much into it. It's like a meatball, but we're not going to add bread and flour and eggs and all that stuff. And then you're just going to do this. Mix it with your hands. Really all you got to do, make sure it's really well incorporated. There's something in protein called myosin, and it's in the bloods, actually. It's another type of protein. And what myosin does after you start to work it like this is it starts to get sticky. Any of you ever make your meatballs at home, and when you're done, when you know you're done, you put your hand on it, and your hand sticks to the meat, right? That's called myosin. It's starting to activate in the meats. And what it does is it actually pulls the meat together, so you don't have like this super loose, like kind of crumbly type texture. That's really all you're going to do. You mix it in. I like to pat it down into the bowl just like that, and then I'm going to let that sit. So after I make this, I would take this, I'd put it into the refrigerator just like this. I'd maybe put a little bit of plastic wrap on it, let it sit for a couple of hours. Now, if I was going to cook dinner that night, I may make it into little balls. Today we're going to do like little patties. There's a traditional dish called a crepinette. A crepinette is exactly that. It's a patty of sausage that you would wrap in caul fat. We're not going to wrap in caul fat today because nobody has caul fat at home. Caul fat comes from the stomach area. It's not a very pleasant thing to really talk about, but yes, it comes from the stomach area. It's part of the lining, and in very old traditional cuisine, you would take it and you use it as a protectant. So if you were making like pâtés and terrines, you wrap them in that caul fat, and then when you bake them, the caul fat protects the meat. So a crepinette would be this. You would wrap it in caul fat, and then you pan sear them crispy, and it sears that caul fat on the outside. Yeah. It just tastes like fat. Yeah, yeah. Now, I even make breakfast sausage with this. I don't buy breakfast sausage at the store. I buy turkey, I add sage and allspice, and I have breakfast sausage. Fry it up, put it in my eggs. It's healthy, it's easy, and it's cheaper, more than anything. You know what? You pay $4, $5 for a pound of turkey. You buy a single box of sausage, it'll cost you like $6-7 for like 12 ounces. So these are all little opportunities that you guys can have a lot of fun and save some money at the same time. So we're going to make some bulgur wheat while our meat is resting. Chicken stock. You're going to make this very similar to like you would couscous, right? We just go in with chicken stock. We go in with a little bit of bulgur wheat, and we just bring it up to a boil. And once you bring this up to a boil, you cover it, let it go for about 10 minutes, shut it down, let it sit. After that, you're going to come back and you're going to kind of fluff it like you would couscous, and then you're going to pour in a little bit of olive oil, a squeeze of lemon, maybe some fresh parsley, maybe some other herbs, something like that if you got it. But that's it. It's very, very simple grain to cook. No technique having to stir and things like that. This is the quintessential weeknight meal. So again, you're just going to bring this up, and then you're just going to pour this directly in. Once it comes back to a boil, put your lid on, let it cook for 10 minutes, shut it off, let it rest, and then fluff. And what I will show you is what the finished product looks like. So, see how that is? It's beautiful. It's very fluffy, very light. And again, you're just going to add a little bit of oil to it. I like to use a good olive oil, but you can use avocado oil, coconut oil, anything like that. A little bit of salt. And then this would be like, so bulgur wheat is also used in like traditional tabbouleh, right? You throw lots of little minced onion and parsley into it, and you toss it all together. And it's just an absolutely amazing little grain to have. You can see how light it just like falls, and that's what we want. Sometimes when you pull it out, it'll be a little bit clumpy. That's why you fluff it at the very end. Feel free to get your hands in there and kind of play with it and just break it up. But that's really your end result. That's what you want. You see, you're just going to bring your water up. This goes directly in. You're just going to stir it up, bring it to a boil, cover, and you're done. Super simple. Super simple. Now we're going to set this off to the side. When you're doing something like turkey, you're going to need a decent amount of oil in the pan. It's going to want to stick on you. Like I said, it's a little bit leaner, so it's not going to kind of base itself in the pan. Make sure you kind of cover it. This is a gigantic pan. I wouldn't think you would have one this big at your house. Now, when we're going to take the sausage, very simply, take it, roll it all together like you would a meatball. You're going to patty it like a little burger. That's it, right? Like a little breakfast sausage or something like that. And then you sear it, and you get a nice sear on both sides. You can finish it right in the pan. You can pop it in the oven. But that's it. Super easy little dish. And you can have a lot of fun with this again. Like I said, any meat that you have. Like I said, I make them for breakfast all the time. Latin cuisine, say you've got some yellow rice, and you have a little black bean in the cupboard, and maybe you randomly found some jicama at the green market, right? Come home, pull some turkey or pork out of the freezer, season it up, and make yourself a little Latin sausage, like a little chorizo. Hear that? That's what we want. Always into a hot pan. We're going to let it go a little bit longer, and you're just going to sear it. Nice sear, just like that. You're going to let it go a couple minutes on both sides. You're going to flip it, get some more color on it, and just kind of turn down your heat just a little bit, and just let it finish. See how that's lifting right up? That's what we want. Sausage is going. We've got couscous. And then what's next? Our apples and fennel. You grab me the apples? Thank you. So we're going into our little side course here again, and we're talking about balance of a dish. So we love fresh vegetables. We love fresh fruit. Apples really any time of the year. This particular one we're using Granny Smith's, the green. They're nice and sour. They got a lot of sugar into them as well. We're going to take this and we're just going to toss it with some fennel. Diane had some beautiful fennel that she gave me just the other day. Everybody know what fennel is? Anybody not know what fennel is? Okay, so fennel is a bulb that grows. So you've got the base of the bulb here, and then it's got these beautiful shoots that come all the way out. And it's got these little prongs that come off. and it tastes like licorice. Really, really cool little vegetable. Fantastic raw, sometimes even better cooked. We do a braised fennel at the restaurant where we literally just braise the entire head of fennel. There we go. Got some good color on that. Can we see the color? That's what you're looking for. Where we'll braise the entire bulb. So for this, we're just looking for some more freshness. So we're going to do all raw vegetable here. A little bit of apple. Set that aside. We're going to make quick honey mustard. I love honey mustard. This is another really easy recipe that you can use for anything you get at the house. Great on fish, great on any fried food, chicken, obviously, all of that is really, really fantastic. Can you guys smell that? It smells really great. The ginger is starting to come out. Lemon juice, mustard, and salt. So honey mustard is super simple. I bet some of you probably already have a honey mustard recipe that you may make at home. I know there's a ton of them that you can buy. I think that anything you're going to make at home, you're going to enjoy much more. And so, again, these are all things that you're probably going to have in your cabinet. A little salt, a little pepper, some local honey, of course, a little bit of lemon juice. Now, for this one, we use both Dijon mustard, which is extra strong, and then we use whole grain mustard. So we use a really, really good quality whole grain mustard, and I personally think you really, really need it for something like this. It adds those little pops of texture in the honey mustard and adds like another level of spiciness. We're just going to put everything right into here. That's Dijon mustard, a little whole grain mustard, some honey. There we go. Love it. A little bit of lemon juice. Anytime I'm adding lemon juice to something, I always add a little bit, and then you test it. A little salt and pepper. And we do a little tiny shot of vinegar. And you're just going to mix it up. If it's a little bit thick on you, just add some water. If it's a little thin, add more mustard. So then we're actually going to use this honey mustard to dress this fruit. And it works really, really great for this application. Everybody puts it on a salad, right? This is pretty much a salad. You're just going to drizzle a little bit right on top. Just like that. And you're just going to mix it right in. So you have this beautiful sharpness of the mustard. You have the sweetness of the honey. You have the bright acidity that comes in that Granny Smith apple. And then you have this really cool little pop of licorice. It's very unique. Very unique and a lot of fun. Do we have any questions? Whole grain mustard is basically, so mustard seed, right? You're going to take mustard seed and then you're going to ferment that down to soften up those seeds. They're going to start to break down. So yellow mustard, Dijon mustard, all of that comes from regular mustard seed. Whole grain mustard is that seed still intact. Have you ever seen like they have like deli mustard? It's got like the little dark specks in it. Okay, this is all the dark specks. It doesn't have any of the other stuff in it. Fantastic on a sandwich. Roast beef and a little cheddar and this whole grain mustard, and it will change your world. Absolutely. It's not cheap, I will say that. But it is something that you need to have in your cabinet. I think everybody should have whole grain mustard in their cabinet. She's been our pastry chef at Culinary Cafe now for almost 5 years. She is the heart and soul of our restaurant, I'm going to be honest. She's absolutely fantastic at what she does. She has incredible vision and just a true knack for doing this sort of thing. She can do some of the most beautiful desserts you'll ever see, the most delicious desserts you'll ever taste. But I think she can probably agree that when it comes to making desserts, she really loves to make that kind of stuff that like makes you feel at home. Baking pies, baking cakes, today making cornbread. That's really where her heart is. So again, a round of applause for Becca. She's going to close out the evening with a demo. So here you go.
All right, thanks, Tim. All right, hi guys. I'm Becca, the pastry chef at Coolinary, like Tim said, and today we're going to be making a cornbread. This is something that you can use if you're making barbecue. It's a great side, but it's also a really fantastic dessert. It's actually a recipe that I came across and had as a cake first, and then we realized that this would have a great savory application, just depending on adjusting the vanilla, a little bit of the sugar. But we have the sugar actually worked out in this recipe perfect if you do want to use it as a savory cornbread. At the end, we will be putting a glaze on this, which sweetens it up a bit, which is nice. So when I'm doing cakes, I like to start with, if you have a stand mixer, start with creaming your butter and your sugar, because that takes a little while, so you can work as you go and get some other measurements going on while this is just mixing and kind of doing its thing. If you don't have the stand mixer, you can use hand beaters with this just fine, and you would want to measure out your ingredients ahead of time. So I've got the butter in here and the sugar, and we're just gonna get that on. So I start a little bit on the slower side just to make sure that the sugar doesn't pop up. And another really important aspect with creaming the butter and the sugar is making sure that your butter is room temperature and soft. So you can start getting that going a little bit higher now. And while that is mixing, we'll take all of our dry ingredients and we'll sift them. So we're going to take all of the dry ingredients except for the cornmeal. For some sifters, the cornmeal is just a little bit too thick to go through. So yeah, we'll start with the AP flour. And this just helps to get any lumps as flour sits, and leavening agents too, with the baking soda and baking powder. They sometimes get a little lumpy just naturally, but this just takes it all right out and fluffs it right up. So we'll add all of those and mix them. And if there's any chunks, I just kind of like to pull them on through. So once you have those all set, you can just add your cornmeal right in and give it a little stir. And you can just use your hands, or you can use a spatula if you want. But it's all gonna get nice and cooked, so it'll be good. And when I'm baking too, I like to make sure to stop and scrape a lot. That just keeps all of the ingredients nice and incorporated. So we'll do the scrapes and just let it get back going again. And yeah, like Tim was saying, my favorite things to bake are really comfort foods. And you can do so many different things with a style of comfort foods, like whether it be a pie that your grandmother made and just adding a unique different sauce, and that makes it's almost like a modern twist on your classic comforts. So I really like doing things like that. And the comfort foods are it's what I grew up eating. I grew up in New Hampshire. My family was really into cooking and baking, and all on my mom's side, we sort of just grew up in the kitchen. That was where the family met, friends met. We would be eating and tasting, so I just immediately fell in love with it. And when I was growing up, the Easy Bake Oven, we're just going to mix this some more, was the hottest ticket on the market, and it was all I wanted. And my mom, being a little bit above, if you will, the Easy Bake, did not want me to have it, but that's all I wanted. So eventually my parents broke down and got me the Easy Bake, and it was probably, as great as it was to have, and I was so excited, it was this little powdered mix that it almost looks like this little hockey puck of a baking dish. And you put it in, and I remember watching at the oven, and it's this light bulb that's cooking your cake, so it's not going to go fast. And it finally did cook, and it was essentially as hard as a hockey puck, too. So after that, my mom said that that was it, and she taught me how to bake in the real oven using a real mixer and all the adult gadgets, and I was hooked from there, and that really just sealed the deal for me. I was probably like 7-ish, so ever since then, I've just been a baking fool. So this is actually, it's looking really nice. I don't know if you guys can see into the mixer at all. If you can't, I can take it off, but we have it looking really nice. So the butter and the sugar, it gets light and fluffy. The butter, when you put it in, it's more so like a yellow color, but as it's nice and creamed, it becomes a whiter color. It's still got the yellow hue, but it's a bit whiter, nice and fluffy. We can add our vanilla. And vanilla is one of my favorite baking ingredients. I think that it's pretty great in everything. It gives a nice, subtle flavor that really accents really whatever you're cooking. And after that, we're going to give it a nice, another little scrape. And next, we're going to do the eggs. And when you're adding eggs into cakes, it's important to, especially when you only have a few eggs going in at a time, so we have 3 today, and just doing one at a time and really letting that mix. Sometimes with the butter and sugar, if you add them all at once, it doesn't quite mix in just as well, or almost looks slightly curdled. And in this recipe with the cornbreads, and some cornbreads, when you do use a creaming method for the cornbread, the eggs will look a little bit curdled, and that's okay. It all kind of evens out once you add the dry ingredients. So you want to add that one at a time and just give it a scrape every time to make sure that everything's nice and incorporated. So we'll get the mixer going again, add the last one. And something that's fun with these cornbread recipes, and so today we're going to do a citrus glaze. It's an orange glaze, and you can really do any sort of citrus you want. If you wanted to do lemon, lime, grapefruit, it would all go great in there. And if you want a really strong flavor, you could add a little bit of the zest into the cornbread itself. But I'm going to be making an orange whipped cream to go on top, so you really get that nice flavor in there. So we'll add that last egg right in. And then we'll get our, where's my measuring cup? Oh, here it is. So we'll put our buttermilk and the honey. Honey seems to be the theme of the evening, but it's really good, great versatile ingredient for both the savory application and the sweeter side of things. So I just put my honey and my buttermilk right in together. There we go. So I'll give that one more scrape down. And like I was saying, like sometimes with certain recipes, like no matter how much you mix them, they still kind of look curdled, which maybe I can give you like an idea. If you can see that, it still sort of has that effect, like you're not doing anything wrong. It's just how it's going to be. So we'll get that a little bit, the egg a little bit more incorporated. Quick little mix. And now, for when you're adding, this goes for most cakes that you're doing, this cornbread included. We're going to add the dry, alternating with the wet. You add the dry in 3 parts. So you're always starting and finishing with the dry. So we'll add 1/3 of that in. And then we'll turn on the mixer. And I like to do this on the quicker side of things, just so you're not over mixing. So you'll add half of your liquid. And while it's still running, this is just how I do it. I mean, there's so many different ways to incorporate the ingredients, but this is the way I like to do it. Add a little bit more, and while it's still running, just finish that wet. And then the last of your dry. And cornbread, it's a pretty durable cake. Like it's not as finicky as some of the other cakes, so It's nice. It's a good one. And then I take it off when you still have, it's not all incorporated, so you still have a good amount of the flour showing, but we can just fold that all in, and it gets the ingredients nice. And this makes sure you don't have anything that's on the bottom is now coming to the top. So give that some nice stirs. There we go. Perfect. So next we're gonna take our pan, and I use like a 9x13. You can use whatever you like. You can make muffins or cupcakes out of this. You can make it into a round and just use a couple. With this recipe, it's about like halfway to 3/4 of the pan that you'd want to fill it if you were to use cupcakes. If you were to do a cupcake pan, maybe I'd say like 3/4 of the way. This recipe rises pretty nicely, but it doesn't ever really seem to overflow. It's got a nice height, but not too much. So we'll spray our pan pretty well. You can use the butter and flour if you prefer that method to make it non-stick. But I just like Tim was saying in the restaurant, we're always fighting the clock. So the pan spray is definitely the way I go. But you can use different alternatives. I know at home I like to bake with the coconut. Was that the coconut oil spray? I actually really like the flavor of that. It's a great non-stick product for baking too. I mean, some of the alternatives, when you're baking, sometimes stick, but the coconut one is awesome. So you can just kind of even this out, and depending on how you're feeling, maybe you've had a bad day, you can give it like a couple like bangs, just like get it out. It gets all the air bubbles out in the bottom. So then we're gonna put this in the oven, and it goes, you know, just pop that in. So it goes in the oven for, I'd say about 35-ish to 40 minutes. Every oven's kind of different in that sense. So I check it. So I would check this after 15 minutes. You want to rotate it halfway through, and then give it another 10 to 15. You're going to have a nice golden brown product at the top, and which I have over here. That's a little hot. So, yep. And you can use a cake tester or a toothpick. You can just stick it in the middle. If it comes back clean, then you're pretty much good to go. But it'll be golden on the top, and if you press the center, it pushes back. It'll still be soft, but you'll have a good, a slightly firm pushback. So when you take this out, and while this is cooling, we'll move into the glaze. So, and when I did this, I use fresh squeezed oranges. You don't necessarily have to. You could just use orange juice if you want. So you're going to take, on the heat, you're going to put your 1 cup of orange juice. And if you wanted something, I mean, you could use lemon juice, and it would just be not quite as sweet because the lemon juice is a little bit more sour. But then you put the your sugar and your vanilla all in here, and you give that a nice stir. And you want to bring it to a boil, and then once it's boiling, let it simmer for about 5 minutes. So it isn't something that's going to be crazy thick or reduced, but it does get all of those sugar granules out and makes it just slightly more syrupy than if you were to just boil it and take it off the heat. So after that has set for, just take it off the heat after it's been simmering for 5-ish minutes. And after your cornbread is taken out, basically, while it's still warm, you don't want it to be like right out of the oven. I'd give it like 10-ish minutes, let it sit. And you're just going to pour the syrup all over your cornbread. And it's so nice. You might think the first time I did this, I was like, oh my God, that's a lot of syrup. Maybe it's not going to hold up. But the cornmeal is so absorbent and so nice with this syrup. So as it continues to cool, that'll all just soak right in. And I would give that about maybe like 20 minutes to sit in, and then you can cut and serve. So you get that really nice flavor. Yeah, it's super absorbent, so it does go in really nice and quick. And then, so if you can use we're gonna do whipped cream for this. So if you get like a pint. So a pint is the 2 cups, which is the smaller heavy cream that you'll get. So you can use one of these mixers or beaters, or if you want to get a bit of a workout in, you can do it by hand. Yeah, I got to really show off your skills. So you're going to want to put your cream in, some more vanilla. And this is, so for 2 cups or the small container of cream, I like to do a 1/4 cup of sugar. And that just gives you, it's sweet, but not overly sweet. And then to give this a little extra flair, we're going to add some orange zest. You're going to want to zest the entire orange right in here. And you can really flavor whipped cream with anything. It's such a versatile ingredient. So I really like adding citrus. You can add alcohols, like bourbon is really nice, rum's great. So, and that I actually am not sure if that is on the recipe, but if you want to write it down, it is just it's just 2 cups of heavy cream, a 1/4 cup of sugar, 1 teaspoon whipped cream, and then really any citrus that you want to zest right in there. So you would mix this until it is at more of a stiff peak, and you have that nice. It's a nice color. You get the pretty effect with the zest in there too. After that, you can just cut a piece, and there we go. We'll pop that right on the plate. So you can add some of your whipped cream on top to give it some nice zest. And we're just going to finish this off with some berries. So the blueberries are really nice and fresh on there too. And that's your plate. So you've got some nice color, some nice texture. It's a really soft, sort of pillowy cake. And that's that. So we'll get that plated up. You guys can eat it. All right. Thanks, guys.
Kai's Music Garden.
name brand quality vinegar, it's just going to taste better.